This council meeting of August 2nd, 2022 is called to order. Donna, will you do a roll call, please? Oops, so-
Would you like
Do
to
the
do the
pledge,
pledge
please.
first?
Oh, I skipped the pledge. Kathy, would you do the pledge for us?
Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, yep, I will. Councilmember Bode,
Here.
Councilmember Sherman. Here. Councilmember Gutierrez,
Here.
Mayor Nesco,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Schmidt,
Here.
Councilmember McDowell,
Present.
and Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
All right, thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
Does the council have any late changes to the agenda? City manager, do we have a late change?
I would request a late change, Mr. Mayor, to add item number 4 to the action agenda. That will be an item for council to consider appointment to the Housing and Behavioral Health Committee, switching the primary and the alternate to that committee.
Thank you. All right, do we need to do anything else with that?
Not yet.
Okay. Does council have any board reports to share? All right. Has the council read the consent agenda, and may I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as published. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, we're at general public comment. Donna, do anybody signed up?
Yes, we do, Mr. Mayor. We have several in person and I can see one person on Zoom. So I'll start with in person. And first we have Dean Jewett.
Matt, be first again. Dean Jewett, lifetime Mason County member. Appreciate the ability to be here and have a conversation with you guys. I'm going to read something off of one of my infamous posts. We need to remind the city council that their job is to not solve the homeless problem for the county, the state, or the city. Rather, it is their responsibility to protect the safety and interests of the citizens of Shelton through the diligent enforcement of local laws and ordinances. That's the only way that it gets better. Okay. Browsing through, this camping ordinance that we have here, I've got some concerns.
You want to talk about that on when the ordinance comes up, or do you want to?
Well, I'm gonna talk about it now, and I can talk about it later too.
That's fine.
That's fine, okay.
So just kind of going through here, it talks about, if there's a whole litany of information, 1 through 9. And it just talks about all the things that the host has to do. So what if the host doesn't do that? Okay, where is the enforcement piece of this? It talks about that, things that you're going to do, but those things are already in place for what we have going on right now. And they're already not being enforced. So I don't understand if we're going to enforce something that we're not already enforcing. It just kind of, puts a big question mark. It also talks about how you're going to have a public notice. Okay, so you're going to talk to neighbors within 300 yards, 300 feet of where this camp's going to be. So what if the neighbors oppose? What's the remedy there? They're just going to show their opposal and then that's going to be it because it's an ordinance that's already approved. And so then it doesn't matter what the neighbors say. Then why even have a meeting in the first place? Okay. The city may create a nuisance abatement program. It should read the city will create, not may. May is a pretty open-ended statement. Just recently, I had a homeless individual in our building when I was unloading supplies. Here's my wife, everybody's down there. We have a guy hiding from the cops, drinking beer and being, there's a mental situation. I had to call the cops. I had to find him for the police and then have that. And I was also threatened with violence by him. Okay, this stuff is happening every single day. And I don't understand what is going on why we're not. And I say that we're not doing anything. I'm not seeing the action item. Do we have a homeless committee? Yes. I mean, it's obviously my time's up. We'll swing back around, but I'm not happy.
Next is Jackie Jewett.
Hi there, Jackie Jewett, live in Shelton. So I want to talk about a no sit, no light ordinance for our downtown core. And there has been several cities that have passed the same sort of ordinance. So in Everett, they passed the ordinance and it makes it illegal to sit or lie down in a 10-block stretch of Everett. And this was the council's solution to a long-running homelessness crisis that had business owners pleading for help after a large encampment took shape in the city and crime increased. It's important to address the needs of our unsheltered population with compassion, while also protecting the residents and the businesses who have been impacted by criminal activity in this area. That comes from an article about Everett. Spokane also passed the same ordinance, but they passed it. It's between 6 a.m. and midnight in the zone, in the section in the ordinance. So that means there's no sit, no lie, no nothing. So Bellingham also created such a thing, and this ordinance is in effect from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day in Central Business District and the Fairhaven Business District. And they did that to protect their downtown residents and business owners. And lastly, I'd like to talk about Aberdeen, because Dean and I have a personal connection to Aberdeen. And we had our food truck in Aberdeen years back, and we were there for almost a year. And during that time, the homeless were just, it was just a lot. And these people, they need help. But they're coming everywhere. So we had stolen propane tanks that were strapped and attached to our trucks, stole our propane tanks, stole tables. They would come up when we were turning around to make orders, and they would steal condiments and creamer and and napkins and all kinds of stuff. They also took our trailer battery, which made it very unsafe for our drive home, since we didn't know we didn't have any, of that going on with our towing our trailer. Customers complained. There was panhandling all the time. They were asking for food. And so Aberdeen passed this, and I would like to read something that the council president said. She said she felt compelled to create the ordinances after speaking with city residents and downtown business owners who are upset about the homeless people lying down and sitting by their storefronts. She said her hope is that the residents will feel safer shopping downtown. And she ended with, I am very passionate that we all have rights. I have the right to go shopping. I have the right to be safe, and I have the right to have my children be safe. Let's do this.
Thank you, Jackie.
Next is Toby Lane.
Okay. You can see that, can you not? Robert's law.
No.
No, no.
No.
The council policy manual does not allow residents to cede their time to another speaker.
Next is Athena Ayers.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I'd like to switch up the tone just a little bit and tell you, each of you, that I know that the homelessness issue in our community is a complicated issue, and I know that you guys are doing all that you can to try to come up with valuable, sustainable solutions to that issue. I'm here as the executive director of Community Lifeline, our only low barrier homeless shelter in Mason County. So I am here to support in whatever that looks like. I think it's important to say that when we're dealing with a homeless population, we're not just dealing with people who don't have homes. We're dealing with people who have childhood trauma. We're dealing with people who have mental health issues. We're dealing with people who have used substances and chemical dependency as a means to cope with their situations. And that makes it a very complicated matter to address. There's not just one simple answer. And I'm sure if there was, each of you would have already jumped at the bit to do it. So I don't want this community to believe that our city council and our first responders and our resources aren't doing anything, because we are. We're having these conversations. We have the homelessness task force meetings that are being moved ahead to be bi-weekly rather than monthly. We are trying to approach a very difficult issue very strategically, and it unfortunately doesn't happen as fast as we would like it to, but we are working on it, and I appreciate each of you for being a part of that. Even if our opinions are different on what needs to happen to come to a solution, it's important to recognize our first responders and our relationship with law enforcement and with EMTs and the hospital. We have so many amazing resources here in Mason County that do amazing work. And it's important to highlight each of those places and recognize how much work they put into this issue. And I think that if we can come together and work together, which honestly, I think we're already doing, we will find a solution, but it's complicated. And I know that it's frustrating. And I know that it's challenging for our business owners and for people who live here who want to feel safe. I live in this community, so I want to be safe as well. But I would like to remind each of you also that the things that you see happening on the streets, when we bring them into shelter, that doesn't just go away. Sometimes those things end up happening under our roof at Community Lifeline. And so we have to be prepared to deal with those things. Our staff have to be prepared to administer Narcan for people who are overdosing. You know, those things happen on a regular basis. And I just want you guys to be aware of that and how much we're trying and how much we appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you, Athena.
Next is Jamie Ellertson.
Hello, my name is Jamie Ellertson, and I also live in Shelton. For those of you that do not know me, I do a lot of the behavioral health stuff everywhere. I'm literally everywhere in Mason County all the time. And same as Athena, I think she stole my idea. I want to thank everybody too, because I have to say, working in behavioral health, working with houseless populations, working with people that are addicted to drugs, it is definitely a very thankless job. I see posts on Facebook all the time by countless people that are really degrading law enforcement, degrading people who are out there working. And I'm telling you right now, we do have a lot of programs that are working, but everybody seems to not be talking about the programs that are working. I'm seeing people get into mental health treatment. I'm seeing people go into substance use treatment. We don't really have a homeless problem. We have a mental health problem. And there is a much greater difference. I would say in Mason County, I know every houseless individual. I know their first name, I know their last name, and they know who I am. And the biggest problem is I can't just walk up to an individual and say, hey, do you want to go to mental health treatment? Because in Washington State, we have less than 100 crisis beds that are voluntary. So the only way that somebody is going to get into mental health treatment is if they are detained. And that's a process. But I'll tell you, our law enforcement out there, they're doing a good job. I see them every single day working, calling me, asking me if I could help them get somebody detained. You know, our houseless populations aren't just people who are abusing drugs. We have a lot of elderly out there. And that's a lot that's not talked about. How do we get people into nursing homes, adult family homes? So I know right now, you know, there is a lot of negativity and we need to talk about it, but we also need to get back to the roots of Mason County, and that's collaboration. For anybody who doesn't know, Mason County is definitely highlighted across the whole state. And I'm in a lot of meetings about behavioral health on how our collaboration is working. A lot of our agencies are working together. And I think we need to get back to talking about that and talking about the problems, but also the solutions. So if anybody wants to talk or have a healthy debate, I'm always up for a debate, not an argument. I'm always welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Now we have Colleen Carmichael on Zoom.
Hi, I'm Colleen Carmichael, and I'm the Executive Director of Quixote Communities. The chronically homeless are living proof of what happens when children are subjected to abuse and or neglect. A child that lives through these horrific external events is left with a brain and nervous system that automatically switches into survival mode to keep them alive. If that child does not have a stable, loving environment to recover, the brain and nervous system become altered and the long-term effects are staggering. As an adult, they live from moment to moment without pausing to think about, plan for, or even dream about a future. Having survived daily beatings, they may have trouble thinking a problem through calmly and or considering multiple alternatives. If they were sexually abused, they may find it hard to acquire new skills or take in new information. They may struggle with sustaining attention or curiosity or be triggered by reminders of their trauma. If they were exposed to verbal and physical abuse, they may show deficits in language development and abstract reasoning skills. It may also limit their ability to be fully present in activities of daily life and can significantly fracture their sense of time and continuity. Some of these people we serve were exposed to abuse you can't begin to imagine. And as a result, they behave in ways that appear unpredictable, oppositional, volatile, and extreme. Some of the people you see on the streets that are struggling to stay clean may have brains that don't stop them from high-risk behaviors, self-harm, unsafe sexual practices, and excessive risk-taking. When these kids were under the care of their caregivers, those people gave them a sense of shame, guilt, low self-esteem, and poor self-image. Carry that forward to adulthood and add more of it as people look at them and treat them as if they don't matter. We are perpetuating this belief, and the abusers gave them that belief. We are diminishing their sense of competency, and as a result, their negative expectations interfere with their problem solving and ability to make a difference in their own life. There is hope. Housing people is proven to reduce fight or flight mode that these adult children are living with every day. Trauma treatments like music, somatic, and cognitive behavioral therapies are easing stress on their brains. Providing services and connecting to the housing is telling them that they are seen and, more importantly, that they matter. You can help reduce homelessness. You can give those people a future they deserve. How? Support and fund agencies that are doing this important work in Shelton. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have one more person via Zoom, Vanessa Wassman.
Okay. I think I'm unmuted.
We hear you.
Okay, thank you. Video is not working. Anyway, I'm new to city council meetings. I've been in Shelton since, oh gosh, 2007 and raised my 3 kids here. I'm a single mom and a small self-employed business owner. And I just heard about these meetings mostly through Dean. Thanks, Dean. And wanted to just say that I like what I heard tonight. I think the collaborative nature that several of you mentioned, I think is definitely the way to go. I do have a teenage son that spends time obviously in Shelton with friends and going to school, going to the YMCA, things like that. Great kid, he's 14. And he's definitely experienced some things from, you know, some of the folks living on the streets, some scary situations. At one point, he was attacked by a female, a homeless adult female. She spit on him and tried to hit him with a crutch or something like that. And he's 13 years old, hanging out in front of the Ritz, waiting to get his food. And so as a mom, knowing that my teenager is getting assaulted that's difficult to, you know, to hear about that. Apparently there was a person I heard on Facebook on one of the apartment complexes had wandered onto one of the apartment complexes where children were playing and began exposing himself to the children in plain view. So I bring those things up because I understand about childhood trauma and I agree with that, what Colleen had said about that and the others. But the cycle's continuing if our kids are being, traumatized when they're just trying to live their lives on, out in the world. So I look forward to coming to more of these city council meetings. I look forward to seeing how we're going to tackle this situation, hopefully as a community, and keep everybody safe, including, like we said, the folks that are dealing with these mental health issues. They deserve to be safe too. I definitely agree with that. I'm all for the housing. But look forward to also hearing some really specific information on how we can do all the things that need to be done. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it for now, Mr. Mayor.
All right. There are no business items this evening, so we'll move on to our action agenda. Our first action item is city manager Jeff Knight has information for us about regulating camping on private property.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. This is one of the code sections that were identified for review, and it's section 20.47, which is the temporary homeless encampments section of our code. This municipal code section was adopted in 2015. So what we're doing here is refining the regulations a little bit surrounding those encampments. City Council discussed this policy idea at a study session on March 22nd of this year. And at your last meeting on July 19th, council directed one change to the ordinance to add language similar to what was in the graffiti code that council considered earlier this year. And that has been added as section 20.47.035, and it's titled repeated impacts. Basically, within if a property is impacted by encampments 3 or more times within a 60-day period, they will have additional time in order to abate the problem, 180 days, so 6 months. And each instance has to be reported to the city, to our law enforcement and code enforcement personnel, and each instance has to be abated within 20 days, each previous instance. With that, I did want to point out a couple of other sections. There is an enforcement section of this code that has been in the language from the beginning. That's 20.47.080. And there is a provision for revocation of a permit if it has been already issued and people are not complying with the criteria, and that is section 20.47.09. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, Donna, do we have any public comment?
We do. Dean Jewett gets 3 minutes.
Okay, so in the future, I understand what you're trying to do, and I don't want to address just you, but when you interrupt somebody when they're having their amount of time, that needs to go back on the clock. Thank you. When we talk about these encampments, okay, obviously, we've had conversations. I've had conversations with a lot of people in this room behind me and in front of me. There is a real estate law, okay, called diminished value. So where is the city's liability if you allow a camp in an area that was not set up and it wasn't written in code that way and it wasn't zoned that way, and you're allowing this in there? So now I have $1 million house next to a church decides to do it. Now my $1 million house is 600,000. Is the city going to give me the additional 400,000? This is proven. This is case law. Okay, diminished value. We need to look it up. Maybe we should have a conversation with the city attorney on it as well. If you guys want to sell me on this camping, because I'm not adamant, I've kind of changed my tune a little bit. If we can have these camps, and then you're going to guarantee me that we're not going to have this downtown that we see for the tourists and the people coming through town. I mean, I try to tag the city of Shelton so that whoever's running your social media can see these different things that these other people post besides just me. So we all need to take a look at those. And you need to ask yourself, do you want it next to your house? Do you want your grandkids interacting with these individuals that are causing the issues? And I hate to use the word homeless myself because it's not all the homeless people. There's a lot of good homeless people. But there's that other subset, that 10, 15, 20% that are not. And they have a negative impact on each and every one of you and us. So I want to make sure that you're very well aware of what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Anybody else have public comment, Donna?
Yes, Colleen Carmichael via Zoom.
I just wanted to address a few comments that were made. As you may or may not be aware, Quixote Communities was founded from encampments in Olympia. So our agency is proof that you can turn encampments into an operational agency that has now had 3 successful models built around tiny homes and the villages that we supported. And that came from encampments, and it came from the residents of the encampment that were able to follow rules, that were able to work together and to produce now what we have is our 3rd Shelton village coming up. I'm very grateful to the city for their support in this and for the other communities and agencies in the area. But if you have questions about how we did this and how we were able to be successful, we're happy to share. We've shared it with many other agencies throughout the United States, and we have done this very successfully. And so I'm very proud of the work we've done and the work of our residents.
Thank you. Anybody else, Donna?
No one else, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Maybe I have a reading of ordinance 1987-0422.
Ordinance number 1987-0422. An ordinance of the city of Shelton, Washington, amending chapters 20.47.010 and 8.70 of the Shelton Municipal Code related to camping on private property.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
I move that ordinance number 1987-0422 be approved as presented.
Second.
All right, comments and questions for staff. Councilmember Peterson.
Jeff, would you talk a little bit about the piece of this as far as private property ownership and some of the tools and resources that we're going to provide to property owners, private property owners in regards to this ordinance?
Yeah, so what the provisions for these encampments require is that a community organization apply for and be approved for a encampment for either up to 6 individuals where there's criteria associated with it, or up to 30 individuals where people are where criteria is associated with that, a little more stringent if there's up to 30. What we have with property where there has been no permit approved and that a current encampment is in place, our police department is willing to help those property owners when they are notified that an encampment is on their property. Whether that is with how to design the property with lights and with limbing up trees so that there's clear sight lines into those to prevent or to diminish some of the illegal activity that's taking place, or to provide resources to help with cleanup. We would put together a program that would be able to help people, partner with other community organizations like the United Way, who has an annual day of caring, those types of assistance programs. But if someone comes to us and asks us for help, the last thing that we as a organization are going to do is say, no, we can't help you, do it yourself. That's not the way that this city government operates for as long as I've been here. And it's not the way we're going to operate while I'm here. And it may not be right away, but we are here to help. And what we're trying to do is help not just citizens, not just certain citizens, but help the entire community of Shelton in order to address this problem. It's baby steps. It's incremental. We can't do everything all at once. We don't have the resources to do everything all at once. But we can take those proactive steps to help people address the issues that they see in their community and then adjust as needed. Once we see what works.
And we've also talked a little bit about providing examples of no trespass postings, letters of consent to be put on file with SPD.
That's
Can you talk a little bit about if how that might look as it might be implemented and,
Yeah.
you know, from the point of view from property owners, especially those who have properties that may be attractive for these types of encampments, protecting those property owners' rights and making sure that our law enforcement has the tools that they need in order to address those issues.
We do have several templates for no trespassing that we do intend to put on our website, so it doesn't require really much legwork to fill those out and file those with the police department and keep them current. And if one of those are on file, the police are able to enter the property without seeing an action take place in order to address those issues. That's what those right of entry, I believe they're called, forms are for. And we will make those as easy to file with our police department and with the city government as possible.
Thank you.
And the no trespassing signs, absolutely. They're certain size, font, size of letters, those types of things. We make sure to have those guidelines available for anybody that's interested.
Questions? Comments? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 1987-0422 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries. All right. Now we have a resolution regarding a special use permit at Mountain View Elementary. Senior planner Jason Dos has details.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I was before you at your last regular meeting, July 19th. This is essentially to authorize placement of 2 portable classrooms at Mountain View Elementary. As I explained previously, the reason we're here is because Mountain View is located within the airport overlay zones associated with Sanderson Field. The intent of those regulations is to have better land use compatibility between the airport and the city on a moving forward basis. So long story short, what the code requires is they obtain a special use permit, which they did. We held a public hearing on that with the City of Shelton Hearings Examiner in May. He's recommending approval to the council and just asking that you approve the resolution that basically accepts the Hearings Examiner's decision on it so the school district can move forward with the project.
Thank you, Jason. Donna, anyone sign up for public comment?
We do have Vanessa Wassman with her hand up on Zoom.
Hi there, sorry about that. Back to the camping ordinance, can someone say where the camps are gonna be exactly?
Excuse me,
But
Vanessa.
Vanessa, we're moved on from that.
Oh, okay,
you
I
can
tried
get
to
a-
raise my hand before it was over, but sorry for my delay.
I'm sorry, you can get a hold of our city manager, Jeff Knighton. His phone number is on the website and he can probably answer that for you.
Okay, thank you, my apologies.
Oh, that's okay.
So no, Mr. Mayor, there's no public comment.
All right. We may have a reading of resolution number 1241-0622.
Resolution number 1241-0622. A resolution of the City of Shelton Council concurring with the Hearings Examiner's recommendation regarding special use permit 01-22, an application by the Shelton School District to add 2 portable classroom buildings within Zone 6 of the Airport Overlay Zone.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 1241-0622 as presented.
Second.
All right. Council have any questions or comments for staff? No. All right. We have a motion and a second to concur with hearing examiner's recommendation for approval of the project and to authorize me to sign resolution number 1241-0622, certifying council's approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Our next item is resolution for the Cota Street Parking Lot Project Award. Public Works Director Jay Harris has information for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Jay Harris, your Public Works Director. So right next door here, we have a gravel parking lot. It was the site of a former school gym. What was the downtown school's name though?
Lincoln
It's
Gym.
the Lincoln Gymnasium.
Lincoln Gym. Anyways, we have a project to remove the gravel. The building went down years ago. And to remove the gravel, install curbs, permeable pavers, a concrete basketball court and pickleball combined, do a bunch of landscaping. We have been designing the project for the last couple of years, ever since I started here. I first looked at it, did some redesigns, that sort of thing. We bid the project in June. We opened bids on July 14th. Miles Resources was the low bidder for the project at $502,000. Miles Resources also is the low bidder on Western Gateway or the Railroad Avenue improvements, which start next week. We discussed the bids at your last meeting on the 19th. With the $502,000, there's some final design costs, some inspection costs. The city has about $44,000 worth of costs that we're going to do. We're going to do the landscaping and a bunch of haul off and that sort of thing to try to keep the cost of the project down. Total cost of the project is about $602,000. The 2022 budget had $538,000 in it. We are proposing to use $82,000 from the stormwater funds and a future supplemental budget later this year by our finance department right there. You guys like that, don't you? No, not really. Anyways, to have the funds necessary to complete the project. So I'm excited to move forward. The project, we are digging on an old site, right? And so luckily we're not doing any hugely deep excavations, but my understanding was there's some old steam lines that used to run around there. That's how they used to heat the buildings, that sort of thing. We do have about an 8% contingency for the job. I think that's probably going to be enough because we're not going super deep. So we're looking forward to kicking off the project. It'll probably be sometime next month. We're getting all the paperwork and contracts and that sort of thing put together with Miles and look forward to breaking ground in the next month or so. And that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Jay. We have anyone interested in public comment?
No one in person, and I don't see anyone on Zoom either, Mr. Mayor.
All right, maybe have a reading of resolution number 1240-0622.
Resolution number 1240-0622. A resolution of the Council of the City of Shelton, Washington, authorizing the city manager to approve a public works contract with Miles Resources LLC for completion of the Cota Street parking lot project.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 1240-0622 to authorize the city manager to sign a contract with Miles Resources LLC to construct the West Cota Street parking lot improvements.
I second it.
All right, comments or questions first?
Oh,
Comments and questions for staff? Nobody? Thank you. Thank you, Jay, for the 2 years of hard work. I'm sure it'll get highly used and it's pretty exciting. I think Commissioner Olson will probably enjoy that. He's a pickleball guy, aren't you? Yeah, all right. We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 1240-0622 to authorize the city manager to sign a contract with Miles Resources LLC to construct the West Coast Street parking lot improvements. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Jay.
All right, thank you. Or late change, City Manager Knighton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. We will propose a change for the council liaison to the Housing and Behavioral Health Committee that is run by the county that we participate in. Currently, Councilmember Bode is the primary representative and Mayor Anisco is the alternate. And the proposal is to basically switch that relationship so that Mayor Anisco is the primary and Councilmember Bode is the alternate.
All right. What do we do from here? Slight change.
Just make any comments and then motion second.
Right. Any comments? Questions?
I move to appoint Mayor Anisco as our liaison to the Behavioral Health Board and appoint James Bode as the alternate to that committee.
Second. All right, we have a motion. Any comments or questions now? Sorry, we have. Okay, we have a motion and a second to appoint me to the Behavioral Health Advisory Board as the primary and Councilmember Bode as alternate. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Jeff, will you give us your city manager report?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. First thing I want to mention tonight is I'd like to introduce Michael Gibbons. He is our new finance director and started with us on Monday. He came to us from Wenatchee and we're very happy to have him and lucky to have him. And he's jumped right in, devouring all the information that Terry can feed him. So we'll see how well that goes. Mike,
Welcome.
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 It's nice to be here with you in person. I've been watching via Zoom for about 2 months from Wenatchee, so it's nice to actually see everyone's face.
Thank you.
Look forward to working.
Same.
Did you bring that hot weather with you?
I felt that way on Saturday. Yeah. The last 2 mornings it felt. I spent 18 years in Vancouver. So
There you go. Thank you.
A couple other things I wanted to mention, movies in the park. We'll have another movies in the park on Friday evening. And How to Train Your Dragon is the movie coming up, so that'll be fun. Also on, Jay mentioned it a little bit earlier, but on August 9th is when we will start work on the Western Gateway project. And that will run all the way through February 14th, I believe, is the last day of the contract, and or the last day of last working days, but we'll see what this winter brings to us. Lastly, looking ahead, on next Tuesday, you'll have a discussion about downtown visioning and the refinement of the downtown visioning plan that so many of our citizens participated in and put together, and we're just looking at how to implement that vision. Also, we'll talk about downtown parking and see which direction the council would like to have us explore on that topic. On the 16th, we will have, and this will be exciting for everybody, the cleanup contract for the C Street landfill. So lots of projects moving forward. We've got to that point where all the projects are coming to you for approval now that you've been hearing about for the last several years. And also a consideration of the expansion of the Peacock Ridge annexation. And that's all. Well, on action, you'll also have the Civic Center rotating art gallery. So that'll be coming forward as well. And with that, that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for city manager? All right. Does council have any new items for discussion?
I do.
Councilmember.
I would like to post haste bring back the homelessness coordinator position that was here in 2020. And get it as soon as possible and not wait until the results of the homelessness committee and start searching right now for this position. And I hope to bring it to a study session and make sure that we get this done right away.
Anybody have any comments about bringing that to a study session?
Support.
Okay,
That's a good idea.
we'll set that up for study session.
Will do.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anybody else have any items for discussion? Then this meeting is adjourned at 6:43 PM.